Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to a brand new video. So preseason is finally here. We have the new rune system. Everything is here. Looks lovely, but nobody has any idea what they're doing right now, except Oceania actually got the patch a day early. So they've been playing on 7.22 with the new runes, with everything, the League 2.0, I guess, for a whole day already, and they've been practicing and seeing what has been working for them. So I went on to Oceania. I've stalked all the challenger players that are playing at the moment, and I've come up with basically what is working right now on the rune pages so that you can go into game today and you can test some stuff out and have some kind of idea of what to do. Obviously, let me just say, nobody knows the best right now. Like, each champion is probably going to have something slightly different. Maybe they can abuse things in slightly different ways, but these are the most common pages and they will be good for you to go into game and start with, and then you can start tweaking them if you want to. Okay, so timestamps are going to be in the description, and I'll probably stick them on screen as well, just so you can skip to your different role that you're going to play, because obviously if you only play mid lane, you don't want to watch this whole video, that's fine. I'm going to put them down below. But let's start with AD carry. The first one is a press the attack page, which is very common with Lucian. Lucian has made a massive resurgence this season, and everybody is playing him in Oceania right now. So press the attack makes it kind of obvious, honestly. 3 consecutive attacks, and that's really easy for Lucian with his passive, the double shot. Then you're going to do 12% bonus damage, which is absolutely insane. You've got Triumph because he's an aggressive champion, so you're going to go in and restore some of your health. Attack speed, this seems to be pretty much the legend one that every AD carry is taking right now. And then Coup de Grace, finally, you deal more damage to low health enemy champions. And for an aggressive fighting champion like Lucian, this is a really good start. But actually, this is going to depend kind of on the AD you're going to play. Then we have Domination for our secondary. Now, I thought most were going to take Sorcery, but actually this makes a lot of sense because of Sudden Impact. Now, if you look over, well, actually, I have to look on my other screen. You can see it right now. But the Sudden Impact, bonus damage per activation, 467. That is a lot of damage every time. This basically, when you cast your dash, for example, you gain 10 lethality for 5 seconds. So it's only 10 lethality, but it's actually granting you about 467 damage on average across the entire game. Obviously, less early, more later, but that's a lot of damage. And then we have Ravenous Hunter, so you actually gain healing by your abilities. Lucian, obviously, your ultimate, your Q and everything is going to do a massive amount of healing with that. The next one we have is a Lethal Tempo page. Now, this was used a lot on Vayne. Vayne is also using Press the Attack, but Lethal Tempo seems to be pretty good. Basically, Lethal Tempo is kind of if you have something else, some kind of synergy with it, special synergy. Like, for example, Caitlyn gets more headshots because you get so much more attack speed, or Vayne gets loads of Silver Bolt proc, something like that. Domination, again, because Sudden Impact. Look at how much damage Vayne averages with just 10 extra lethality. 1,337. 1,337. That's actually legit. I haven't photoshopped that at all. I just realized, but that is a lot of extra damage for 5 seconds of 10 lethality, and I imagine that's this was a pretty long game, but that still is really good. And Ghost Pyro is actually really cool because when you go into a lane bush in the lane, you can drop one of these pyros and it gives you a bit of vision, so makes it a bit easier to control the lane, if that makes sense. Moving on to the mid lane, they have loads of different pages and stuff, but this is one of the ones that Orianna and kind of poke champions have been running quite a lot recently, the Arcane Comet build. So this is going to do damage. Basically, when you fire a spell out, it will fire a little comet out at the same time. Mana Flow Band is going to be giving you lots of mana sustain in the game. You can see they actually refunded over 3,000 mana, which is pretty crazy. Then we have Transcendence, which you gain a cooldown reduction, which is great, and Gathering Storm. This game gave her 80 AP because it's quite a long game. That's absolutely ridiculous. Gathering Storm is not that great unless you're taking a kind of like mid to late game AP champion, but if you are, it's absolutely crazy. Then we have Domination Eyeball Collection. Again, got 30 AP out of this, which is pretty ridiculous. I thought this was kind of useless, but actually seems to be really good. And Relentless Hunter giving some move speed. I think this is more of a thing of you could change this one, but there isn't really that much else that is really good here, if that makes sense. Moving on to more of a bursty champion, this was with Syndra. We have Electrocute, which is basically like a Thunder Lodge, just a bit more powerful. It actually scales better and it has better ratios as well, so it does more damage. Cheap Shot because you can stun and then obviously do your combo afterwards, so you can do a bit more extra damage. You have the Zombie Ward, which is kind of personal preference. I think the Eyeball Collection will be pretty good here as well. And then Ravenous Hunter, so your abilities actually heal you as well, which is pretty ridiculous. Syndra, who Qs you or ults you and heals for a percent of it. That's kind of crazy. Then we have moving into Sorcery though, because she's more of a mage champion. You'll see a difference in a second. But this, we have Transcendence, so gain some cooldown reduction, which is really good on Syndra. And then Scorch, which is really, really strong. 30 to 60 extra damage every 20 seconds with an ability. That's actually a lot of poke damage if you're a mage constantly trading in the lane phase. The final kind of standard page, I guess, that they were using over there that was very common is an Electrocute page, but this was more for like an assassin like Zed or Talon, for example. One thing to note very quickly though is a lot of people were actually taking Predator, so changing this out here for the Predator one instead, and that was actually with something like Zed in this page, and also the previous one with something like Syndra moving around the map very quickly because you roam really, really fast with Predator. Now, most of the dead players were taking Electrocute though because it's a lot of damage. Sudden Impact because after your dash you're going to gain a lot of lethality. You can see that it was doing about 1,000 extra damage, which is completely crazy. Eyeball Collection gained him an extra 30 AD, which is really good. And then he got his Ravenous Hunter stacks, which gave him more healing. They're moving into Precision this time instead of Sorcery because it's an AD champion. You have Triumph because you're more stuck in, you're not ranged anymore, you're melee, so you're going to need this healing from it. And Coup de Grace because you're a burst champion, you want to be nuking people as much as possible, and this means you do 10% more damage under 40% health. And also takedowns on champions give you an extra bit of AD afterwards as well, so it's kind of like a snowball mechanic, which is really, really good for assassins. So moving on to the jungle, there are loads of different jungle pages, but Dark Harvest is very, very popular at the moment and very strong as a kind of like a scaling build. This isn't that amazing early into the game, but it's very, very good mid to late game because you can actually build these stacks up and then use them really to one burst somebody. So Dark Harvest, really, really good. You stack it up, and then it's this part actually, Soul Charge lasts 20 seconds, but that's increased to 300 seconds after collecting 150 Soul Essence. Once you get to that point, 150 Soul Essence, you can start stacking it up, and that's when you get to one-shot territory. Sudden Impact afterwards, you can see the bonus damage actually on the activation here isn't that good, but Ezreal's not really that much of a burst champion, so no massive surprise. It'll be a lot higher on something like Shaco, for example. Eyeball Collection gained him. This is actually a very quick game, so that's probably partly why as well, but Ravenous Hunter as well. This seems to be the most popular Ravenous one at the moment for the domination tree. The sorcery one here was because it's an Ezreal 80 carry late game a bit more, Gathering Storm to get some AD and Transcendence to get some CDR, which makes sense on Ezreal. You can see the game didn't last very long, so you only got 14 AD out of that one. So this is what I was talking about before, by the way. If you're playing something like Lee Sin or Shaco with the Dark Harvest, you're probably going to go into Precision Tree with Triumph and Coup de Grace instead of the sorcery one. But this is actually a very common jungle burst build at the moment for somebody like Lee Sin or Kayn. Electrocute, which makes sense. Thunderlord, then Cheap Shot because they're movement impaired. Ghost Poro to leave. These are really good actually when you're jungling, so you can leave them around as kind of like mini wards, if that makes sense, to help your team not get ganked or stop invades. Ravenous Hunter, again, no real surprise. But then we do go into Precision instead because the Triumph is more of like a melee orientated thing and Coup de Grace is more for burst champions. This is another really common one for jungle damage champions, I guess, Predator. This is more for gankers actually. I've seen a lot of Lee Sin and Kayn players do this, for example, but actually loads of different people are doing it. Predator has a really nasty early gank because you can use this move speed and you just charge into lane as your first gank. You're pretty much guaranteed to get at least a flash, if not a kill. Predator and Relentless Hunt actually has pretty good synergy together because of the move speed, obviously. Then we have the Precision. This seems to be the most common thing, by the way. If you're taking Precision as your secondary, Triumph and Coup de Grace together, it seems to be a really good combination for damage and burst champion. Last jungle one is for tanky champions. Seeing this a lot actually, but Warwick is one of the champions using Aftershock as his keystone in the resolve tree. I wasn't really sure what they were going to take, and this is probably going to change a lot, but Aftershock actually seems to be doing a decent amount of damage. 1,367 damage for a tank mastery is not that bad, but you get a lot of extra stuff as well. So Font of Life, for example, if you slow somebody, then allied champions, it works basically like Stonewall Patch, Bond of Stone, whichever, I can't remember what it was last season. It works the same as that way. Conditioning is really good though, because after 10 minutes you gain armor and magic resist, and you increase them by 5% as well. Really, really good for tank masteries. This is probably going to be very common if you ever go into Resolve Tree. Okay, Sorcery was the second one he went. This would surprise me a little bit, but it kind of makes sense because you gain the cooldown reduction, which is what he really wanted. And also the Nullifying Orb means that he can fight AP champions a lot more. Both games he used this, he was against an Elise, I believe, which means the Nullifying Orb is basically like a Hex Drinker, which grants you, so he can duel her a little bit more, if that makes sense. Now we have our Riven page. So this, well, it's not just Riven, like Pantheon and stuff like that, more burst damage, but this is the one the Riven, most Riven players in Challenger are using on Oceania at the moment. Electrocute to start with, Sudden Impact, because your dash is going to apply this and give you some lethality, which is really, really strong. You can see 764, which is pretty decent considering the game wasn't too long. Zombie Ward, again, an Ingenious Hunter. This one actually gives your active item cooldown reduction, which is kind of strange because I guess the only one you already have is Ghostblade, but still, it seems to be working at the moment. He did swap this in another game for Ravenous though, so I guess he's just trying out these different Hunter ones. And then Precision again, Triumph and Coup de Grace. So we're going to see this a lot. This is pretty much like the most standard melee like AD fighting page to have Precision secondary. Now this page is really, really good. You're gonna have to abuse this because pressy attack with some top champions are absolutely insane. So I'm talking like Jax, for example, Tryndamere, Fiora as well, Irelia, really, really, really good. There's gonna be loads more. Xin Zhao as well. Pressy attack, because of how the way it works with Jax, is absolutely insane. Triumph afterwards, but I think you could quite easily swap this for overheal. If you're playing like a Fiora or a Xin Zhao who have loads of healing and life steal. It's going to be really, really strong. I also think this could probably work on champions like Riven, but she's a bit more burst orientated, I guess. So we have the legend stacks for the attack speed because it's Jax, which makes a lot of sense. And then Cooper Grace, again, funnily enough, deal more damage. Now, I think, honestly, you're probably most likely going to see this with the domination tree instead. You're going to go for the sudden impact because the lethality is insane. I guess on Jax, it doesn't matter as much, but someone like Fiora's in Dow is really, really strong. And then Ravenous Hunter. This is probably what is going to look more like a more common page for the others like Fiora and stuff who are going to take pressy attack. Final top one, we have a tank page. This was a Cho'Gath, so Grasp the Undying, which kind of makes sense. Gives you a bit more health, which is really cool. Font of Life, as we said, it's just a really good tank thing because the rest of your team are going to be healing all the time when you dive into a fight. Conditioning, really, really good. Second win, this makes a lot more sense. It's kind of like a Doran shield built into your runes, which is really cool. So he's basically sacking his lane phase off and saying, okay, I'm probably not going to do that. You might want to go for maybe sorcery. You can actually go for any of the others, I think, with resolve. It depends on the champion, but this is a really good starter page, and then just mess with your secondary depending on what champion you're going to play. Finally, we have support then. So this page is really, really, really common at the moment on any kind of healing champion. So if Soraka, for example, was this one, they also run this on Lulu, for example, like even Janna a little bit, but I mean, even actually like Rakan and stuff are taking it. Guardian's just really, really strong at the moment. It blocks a lot of damage. You can see 2,600 damage blocked just from this keystone, which is absolutely ridiculous. It was a fairly long game, but still. Even 900 healing on the Font of Life afterwards, which is really cool. Vitalize, heals and shields are 5% stronger. Additional 10% on low health targets, which makes a lot of sense for a healing champion, right? So then we have the biscuits for a bit more regen, and we have the cooldown reduction, which makes a lot of sense on Soraka or any kind of defensive support after this. So this one surprised me a little bit. There wasn't really a very good page for support tanks, a bit more aggressive like a Thresh, but this is the page he's running at the moment, or a lot of them were. Aftershock is actually a lot of damage. You can see it fought well. Okay, it was a quick game. 400 damage for a support is pretty decent, okay? Font of Life, I managed to heal 1300 though, which is insanely good because he's got so many different ways to impair the movement, which means you have like the permanent healing, basically really, really good. Mirror Shell afterwards against an AP support, and Overgrowth giving him a little bit more health during the game because there's nothing really else for him to get. Okay, so last one of the video. Sorry this was so long, but Summon Aerie is really, really, really good for support champions. I've seen Zyra's use this brand. They sometimes use Arcane Comet as well, but Summon Aerie actually does a lot of damage. This one, it didn't do a massive amount, but it's a relatively short game. It would have done a lot more. I've seen people with over 1,000 damage done and 1,000 shielded or healed as well, which is really good. The Mana Flow band is for the mana issues you're going to have on a pokey champion like Sona, so you don't run out of mana so fast. This patch is really bad for that. They gave supports more mana and more poke damage, so that's going to be really irritating. Absolute Focus is one of these reasons as well. You're going to stay relatively healthy because you're on a Sona champion, so you just heal back up anyway, and so you're going to have this free AP. And Scorch, said this already, really, really strong. 30-60 extra damage every 20 seconds, really hard to play against. Then moving into the Inspiration Tree, Magical Footwear, and the cooldown reduction as well, which is just, this cooldown reduction is just really, really insane, honestly. When you're taking it as a secondary, you pretty much almost always want to get it. I'm going to stop now. That is pretty much all the different styles of champion in each role covered, and you should have a good starting point now to play on this patch and some runes to at least try it, and then you can mold them and test them and change them depending on what you want to do with your playstyle. Hope you guys enjoyed the video though. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like if you do, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.